All right, guys, we are starting up the podcast right about now. Hello, guys. How's it going, buds?
It's going very, very well. How you doing, Ryan?
Dude, I'm doing great. I'm having a pretty good day. I can't complain. It's been solid. Thank you for asking, bud. Appreciate it.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. We all good to go?
Hell yeah.
All
Oh, yeah.
right. Hello and welcome to Next to Nothing, the show where we talk about how to waste your time and not your money in gaming. I am your host, Danie K. With me, like every week,
Uh-huh.
my wonderful, beautiful,
Go on.
ever-present co-host.
Yes.
Oh,
Give me more
have I made you
compliments.
blush? Sexy, hot, American heartthrob.
Yeah, I don't mean to brag. I was on a magazine once. I'm just kidding. Hi, guys. I'm Ren. How you guys doing? I hope you're incredible. Hello.
Listen, because Stranger Things is hot right now, Joe Keery and whoever plays Billy have nothing on Ren. Ren is a handsome man. The only man who gives Ren a run for his money is BubbaPudding, who is our special guest this week. Hey,
Oh,
Bubba.
jeez. I don't know if I can go off that, though. Holy cow. I'm doing pretty good. How about you guys?
Dude, I'm doing
Doing good.
fantastic.
So as we get into it here, we got some housekeeping to kind of get out of the way. Bubba, why don't you go on ahead and plug yourself real quick? Where can the people find you, and what are they going to find when they get there?
You can find me at twitch.tv/BubbaPudding, and you will find me 75% of the time playing Rainbow Six Siege, either playing with friends, getting pissed off, or playing by myself and getting pissed off. So you get a little bit of both either way. So usually it's Rainbow Six Siege. There's a mixture of things. It could be like PUBG, just a pretty big mixture of things. A lot of BRs has been kind of my thing, and then Rainbow Six Siege thing. But I will say this though, before we get a little started here, we're a little thirsty here today, guys. You know, gonna go ahead and pour here in this mug here. Okay. Just a little closer.
That's an interesting mug. Oh, what's that saying? Next to Nothing, the podcast. I think that's a limited edition item.
Oh, I didn't even notice.
Holy cow.
It just kind of appeared in my room. It's
Oh man.
It works great.
Mr. Greenlead is in the chat. He said, "Oh, that's a fancy mug. Wish I had one." He does, and he loves it. So limited edition mugs, guys, they are gone on July 31st, so get it before they're gone. We also have another thing. So we've been celebrating our 1 year as a podcast. We celebrated last week with a special 1 year episode, but we've been giving away games all week. And I have a game. This one we got the key from the devs. So once again, that we're giving away Insurgency Sandstorm. Once again, a big thank you to New World Interactive, NWI, for giving us an opportunity to give away this game. And we're going to pick a name right now. We had 11 people tweet the proper tweet. I'm pretty sure there's like a lot of Twitter bots that just try to enter contests.
Oh yeah.
And they would always like retweet the wrong tweet, because I always say retweet the pinned tweet, and then they just retweet.
Yeah, that they retweet that tweet. Yeah, I saw. I was like, what? I think you're doing this wrong, sport.
We're gonna pick a random Twitter user who retweeted the pinned tweet on our Twitter there, and pick a random name. Congratulations, Mr. Green Elite,
Pog,
for winning.
Excellent work, sport.
The and he's like, no, hold on, he is in the chat. Green, do you want me to re-roll? Because I know he already has the game, and he's already told me, and I've just been kind of like, I'm not going to not include his name, but because I know already has the game.
I'm just kidding. It's a joke.
I mean, I'll just so Greenlee, I'm just gonna actually send you the key, and you can give it to whoever you like. Or he said re-roll.
Man, that's a lot of power for one man.
I'll re-roll it real quick.
So help me if you re-roll and it's green again.
Yeah, and that would be really funny if that happened.
Is that what just happened?
That's what just happened.
I knew it. I called it. All right, yeah,
All
you
right.
have to give it to Green. Sorry, Rip Green, you win again twice.
Cheers,
Good shit,
Green.
proud of you.
Okay, so I re-rolled it a second time at Reba021.
Oh,
At
nice.
Reba021, I will contact you on Twitter with the Steam key for Insurgency Sandstorm. Congratulations on winning. Now, remember, guys, every time that you retweet our pinned tweets this month, you'll not only be entered for a chance to win the game of the week, but at the end of the month, everyone's names will be compiled into a big list, and it's kind of like putting your name in the hat more times. The
Mhm.
more times you retweet, the more chances you have to win a package with a $70 value. So, with that, once again, congratulations to at Reba021. I will be sending you a Twitter message after the podcast with the Steam key. Congratulations. Are you guys anything else before we get into the conversations?
I think I'm good. I'm ready to go. I'm down for it.
Let's go.
Cool. Let me make sure I just put down the name. And what do we want to start with, guys? We have quite a few things to talk about.
I mean, you got new headphones, dude.
Yes.
Yeah. Get to it, bud.
Yeah, so I picked up, these are AudioTechnica ATH-M20x's.
Mm-hmm.
That is a mouthful. I don't know why we just can't say, AudioTechnica comfy skull grabbers or
Yeah.
something like that. But so I picked these up because I had a pair of earbuds that, first off, I thought they just kind of sounded bad. Like, I don't know if it was just
Mhm.
like all of a sudden that I couldn't stand the sound or what. So I just figured I would go and get a nice studio pair of headphones. First off, I do a lot of audio editing. I also, do all the streaming, and sometimes the games with like good directional sound really need, an actual set of headphones.
Mhm.
So I picked these up for about $50. I actually saw them for a Prime Day deal today for like $38, which I was kind of peeved about, but I'm like, whatever. I can't really foresee into the future on Prime Day.
Mhm.
So about $50, and I've been really, really happy with them so far. First off, they're loud as hell,
Mhm.
which is kind of nice to just know that I'm not going to be always cranking these things. I can kind of
Right.
roll them back a little bit or whatever. I like knowing it can be really, really loud. They're incredibly comfortable. The
Mhm.
only problem that I have, and this is a problem that I have with all over the ear headphones, is that like right around like the cushioning, I always kind
Yeah.
of get sweaty, like right
Yeah.
around the ears and stuff. And I think that's a common problem for everybody,
Mhm.
but I don't really have like a problem with them like crushing my ears or like the band like breaking into my scalp or anything like
Mhm.
that, or them like really compressing my face.
Yeah.
I don't have any of those problems, and I know with like some of the cheaper kind of headsets and stuff that I've had before,
Yeah.
they like to hug tight, and then
Yeah.
like all of a sudden they'll just be like super loose and barely stay on my head.
Mhm.
Um, so I've been like the comfort and stuff like that has been pretty fantastic. I've been really happy with that. My only complaint in terms of kind of like, this is not even really comfort wise, but just kind of like in the physical realm of things, is because they're studio headphones, they have a really long cable, very, very long. And I
Mhm.
constantly feel like I'm going to accidentally roll over the cable because so it runs under my desk through some cable management behind my monitors and into my interface, which is right in front of me.
Mhm. I know that feeling
Now,
all too well from my previous headset where I at first I initially was like, I love having like this 20-foot long cord, and then only to
Mhm.
find out like after every single stream it'd be like tied into my chair. And it's just like at
Yeah.
some point I'm going to destroy this headset on accident. It's a matter of time.
Yeah. So I've been taking special care. Also, my seat kind of keeps, sorry, my chair keeps like sinking on me. Um, this is what happens when you buy shitty Walmart chairs. Um,
Oh man.
so yeah, like I've noticed like, oh, I'm like more cognizant of the cable. Um, So overall, like the quality, so that's like the physical aspects of it, which I think are just as
Mhm.
important as the actual sound quality you get out of them.
Yeah.
So I've had these things for 2 weeks now, just about. I've used them basically on all my streams. I've used them just kind of sitting around and watching videos and listening to music. Um, the sound is pretty standard. It's
Mhm.
good. It's clean audio. You're not getting a lot of distortion. Nothing sounds like it's coming from a tin can. Everything is exactly how you would expect it to sound. Um, some of the tests I put it through. So my interface,
Uh-huh.
first off, I can do playback. So as I'm talking, I'm hearing the playback in my ears. So I can hear myself as I talk. Um, I sound good back feeding into my own ears. Like I'm not,
Mhm.
from all my experience running in different radio boards and stuff like that, I'm not noticing anything that would like drive me insane right off the back with these.
Right.
I also, because it has a combo, my interface, I have a PreSonus Audio Box i2. The interface has an XLR and a TRS combo
Mhm.
connector. So I can either plug a mic in or I can plug in my bass.
Mhm.
So I plugged my bass in, got things to where I wanted the mix to be, and the bass sounds really good. The bass guitar sounds really good through it.
Okay.
So like as I'm like mixing a song, mixing the sound from like desktop playback to my bass when I'm practicing. Um, which by the way, Danie Core coming up this Friday. um, like that sounds good. Like
Mhm.
I'm not getting like a bunch of, I'm not hearing all sorts of like distortion and feedback or anything like that with it. Um, so that was one of the tests I did. It sounds clean, it sounds good. Um, like I went to a couple of my go-to songs that I always kind of test audio stuff with.
Mhm.
Um, and the one that I went to is Home Away From Here from Touche Amore. That's one of my go-to songs. I've absolutely loved that song since I first heard it. It's Touche is one of my favorite bands. I know how that song is supposed to sound, and I've listened to it on basically everything,
Mhm.
like in every medium that's imaginable except for like vinyl.
Right.
I've listened to that song. I've listened to it in multiple cars. I've listened to it on like a laptop, on shitty laptop speakers, shitty phone speakers, all sorts of earbuds and stuff like that. The mix listening to music is once again clean. Like you know, I hear like no tinny distortion in the highs or like really bad vibrations and lows. Bass is
Mhm.
very clean, and they say that they're like tuned for low frequency use. Um, so when I was listening to, like I said, my go-to songs where I really test out audio stuff, like playback,
Yeah.
uh, super happy with it. Mix was accurate. Each part was distinguished, but like I said, no distortion or any or like no like weird drowning out of any other particular frequency.
Mhm.
In terms of gaming, these are leagues better than what I was using, especially like
Mhm.
in terms of directional use. So I went into Sandstorm. I've played all sorts of Sandstorm with these, and PUBG. I can determine where sounds are coming from fairly accurately with them.
Mhm.
I think that we're not gonna because they're not like a gaming specific headphone. I don't know if something that would be similar because it's a 50 millimeter drive or a 40 millimeter driver in these
Right.
speaker drivers. So I don't know what an actual gaming headset would offer over these, except maybe some. I know some have different smaller drivers
Mhm.
that help kind of simulate a 3D space.
Fullness. Yeah.
hmm but I've been able to pretty well determine location of stuff.
Mhm.
And that might just be like you can possibly chalk that up to me just knowing the game,
Mhm.
and knowing kind of how sound works in that game.
Yeah.
That could possibly be, but not so much for PUBG, because I
Yeah.
haven't played as much PUBG. Let's see, anything else over it? So like just like a quick thumbs up, or not necessarily thumbs up, thumbs down, but like best use case for people is if you're doing more at your computer desk than just gaming.
Mhm.
If you're doing any sort of just casual listening and viewing, and you want something good for sound canceling, and these work pretty well sound canceling.
Mhm.
Like overall, like with my streams and stuff like that, because I have playback in my ears.
Right.
Like, you guys see me kind of like freak out every once in a while when I hear a noise, especially since I've moved. And that's because I can hear everything normally, basically.
Mhm.
Um, but the sound cancellation is really nice. So if you are kind of like in a noisier environment, you got asshole roommates or a
Uh-huh.
dog that you want to ignore, um, these work pretty well. Uh, for like I said, video and audio stuff. If you're watching or editing video or audio, it's good.
Mhm.
And it's very passable for gaming. Now, if you're just doing gaming, if you're looking for something for just gaming, I'm not sure these are going to be the best value for you, just because if you're not running in another mic, if you're looking for like a headset that has, obviously
Right.
this doesn't have a boom mic on it.
Mhm. Does it
So
have
that
a
might be
microphone integrated into it at all, or is it
nope,
just explicit? Okay.
just explicitly audio out,
Okay.
no audio in. So like I said, the best case is going to be you don't care about comms, or if
Mhm.
you do care about comms, you have other ways of doing it. Like you're running
Right.
like a Yeti or another mic, like I am. If you're not exclusively doing gaming and you need something for sound editing, if you're doing any sort of video editing and need noise cancellation and stuff like that. If you're just exclusively a gamer and you want something with comms, you might be better looking at something from Beats or Turtle Beach or
Mhm.
Razer or something along those lines. Um, so yeah, overall, like I said, it was worth the $50 so far.
Mhm.
Everything sounds great. Everything's comfortable. Um, I have no complaints except for the fact that I feel like I'm running over my quick cable for too long, and that's really more of a me thing than it is an Audio-Technica thing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just the nature of having really long cables. I found that one out real quick to the point where it's like, okay, I have a cable that's longer than 6 feet. It needs to be tied down. Like, there's no way
Yeah.
around it. It has to. Um, so it's exclusively wired, right?
Mhm.
Or
Yep.
okay, all right. Just making
Yep.
sure. There's no microphone on it.
Mhm.
In terms of the build quality, how is the build quality itself? Like, can you imagine this staying totally fine over a period of time? So, for
Ye
example, the reason why I asked that is
Mhm.
with my headset in particular, I'm noticing that a lot of the it's not even so much the padding, it's the covering of the padding that's starting to wear out
Mhm.
already. And
Yeah.
that sort of thing, it's not a big deal, but it can be pretty frustrating. Just feel
Mhm.
like I spend a decent chunk of money on this. It hasn't been that long, and it's already showing
Yeah.
signs of wear and tear. So in terms of that, do you see like it being totally fine in that regard, or
Yeah, like overall, and I can take these off and kinda show like some of the materials.
Mhm.
Um, everything like these, they
Yeah,
feel solid. Like it feels like good quality. Like I've noticed like all the stitching like on the inside
yeah,
feels, good. Like I'm not seeing any like bad stitching anywhere. The
Mhm.
plastic overall, like structurally, like it doesn't feel cheap. It has a decent amount of flex to it though, which is nice.
Right,
Um,
It looks a lot bigger than when it was on your head too. Like you
yeah,
actually showing it now actually shows how big it is. Just
yeah,
on your
yeah,
head, it looked like just like kind of like a cheap pair, but then now
Mhm.
you're actually showing me it's like, okay, you did pay $50 for that. Okay, that
Yeah,
makes sense.
yeah. And then like this feels good. Like this is stiff, so it's not like it. My
Mhm.
concern would be that this over time maybe not as
Would
stiff.
wear out. Yeah,
Um, and that could like wear out in the future. But like I said, everything feels good. Like I don't feel like
Mhm.
there's never been a moment where like I've picked this up and felt like it was gonna break in my hand.
Yeah,
Like I said, all the stitching like around the ears and everything like that, I looked at it pretty good. I didn't see any holes or like any like a
Mhm.
bit like a skipped stitch or anything like that. Um, with what I'll do is if people want to like get some good high quality looks at these, I'll
Mhm.
post a picture on my Instagram if people want
Okay.
to check that out. I'll post like a series of pictures on my Instagram that people can look at, and it'll be in the description of the episode.
Mhm. Right on.
Yeah, I've been pretty happy with this purchase.
Mhm. And
The
they're like
playback
$35
on
right now too, right?
What was
On
that?
Prime Day at least.
Yeah, I think it was like a timed exclusive thing
Mhm.
kind of thing.
Okay. All right.
What were you gonna say,
The
Bubba?
playback on your headphones, is that like a thing with your headphones, or is that
No,
with your interface?
it's with my interface. The interface allows me to, it has a mix for import, and it has a I'm sorry, input, and it has
Mhm.
a mix for interface. So you toggle between the two. I do kind of a um my interface setting, I want to say, is like 2 ticks above playback, so I hear just enough input
Mhm.
to get an idea of what I sound like.
Okay.
Um,
I was kind of curious because I've had playback on like an Xbox controller before, but I've never
Mhm.
been able to figure out if I'd be able to do it on these kind of headphones or something. So I'm just maybe a feature or something that comes with something else. But
yeah.
Mhm.
Um, other than that, I really don't have much else with these.
Yeah, I don't know.
Anything else?
I don't really have any more particular questions. That basically answers everything I was gonna say. Maybe in terms of like compactability. So, for example, with my headphones, like I can actually fold in the ears themselves, so that way it's
Mm-hmm.
more compact, just for like travel reasons and stuff like that. Do those do that or no?
Oh, let's see here. The
Proceeds to break the headphones.
right, they just snap in my hand.
crack. Well, there goes $50.
I mean, they can kind of do that. There's not like an actual. I think this is
It's
about
not
as,
meant to do it.
yeah, this is about as compact as they're gonna
Yeah.
get.
Okay. All right. I got you.
Wiggle these back on my head. All right. So
Oh
yeah,
man.
that's kind of that. We have some stuff to talk about,
Hmm.
and I am gonna leave it to you, Ren. What are we gonna talk about in terms of like the news stuff?
Well, we can talk about the Switch Lite, which apparently is a thing. That's
Yes,
happening right now.
we've we've talked about like the potential for a Switch
Hmm.
Lite in the
Yeah.
past,
Yeah,
and
we've
I
even
think
talked about
that's
some of the rumors about it because we thought, at
mhm,
least to my understanding, if I remember correctly, I don't know. I've talked about it a few times just in general.
yeah.
But I believe there was rumors to be two different consoles, kind of like, for example, a Switch Pro and like a
Hmm.
Switch Lite, which is actually
Yeah.
a thing now, so that's pretty cool. But yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. Go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I just was
Oh
like, I
no,
need to
you're
say words.
good. No, you're great. Yeah, I think, and that's what we called it, was the Switch Lite, and we
Mhm.
for the rumors were kind of accurate because
Yeah.
we're getting two things. We're getting the Switch Lite, which we'll
Mhm.
talk about in a minute. That's kind of the bigger thing, and then they're just doing like a Switch refresh,
Yeah.
updating some like internals and like battery stuff, and that's about it.
Mhm.
So it's not really like a new Switch Pro. At least that's not what they're marketing it as, but like just a
Right.
refresh. Um, different some
Yeah.
better choices for them.
Yeah. Just a more
So
optimized version, essentially.
s- so the basics of the Switch Lite, Ren, do you want to, or do you want me to talk about it?
Oh,
Doesn't
you can go
matter.
right ahead. I looked up some of it. I don't know the whole
Mhm.
scoop. All I know is that the Joy Cons, for a normal Switch, you can actually take the Joy Cons off. To my understanding, with
Yeah.
the Switch Lite, you can't. As well as the thing that really caught me off guard, which I was actually super shocked when we were talking about before we started the podcast, was
Hmm.
apparently it doesn't have dockable features, which is really confusing to me. And I would
Yeah.
love to get more into that. But yeah.
Hmm. So the Switch Lite
Hmm.
is going to have the same Switch screen and a lot of the same internals, I believe.
Okay.
Instead, it's going to have it's not going to be able to detach from the Joy Cons are not going to be able to detach from the main screen. It's all going to be one piece. It's going to have the two Joy-Con configuration, and they added a D-pad to it. So on the left side, you have um, a joystick.
Hmm.
Uh, Under it, a D-pad, and then above you have your A, B, X, Y buttons.
Uh huh.
Um, and a below those are the other joy switch. Sorry, the other controller.
The Joy-Con. Yeah.
The Joy-Con. So the whole thing is a solid construction. I believe it charges off a USB-C, I
Hmm.
think. And it has no dockable feature. You're right. And it has no way to output video
Yeah.
to any other device.
Hmm.
So really, no, yeah, the whole idea of docking it to a larger TV or monitor, that's no longer in. I believe that works with the HDMI out. That's no longer a thing.
Hmm.
Um, and I believe they are saying it's going to retail for $200 in the
Yeah.
States.
And I'm
Yep,
looking at a
about an
couple of things right here. So apparently the screen actually is smaller. Like it's actually a smaller device overall, which I didn't expect.
Mm-hmm.
Um the original Switch is a 4 by 9.4 in terms of inches with a 6.2-inch screen. Apparently, like the Switch Lite has a 5.5-inch screen. That kind of sucks. I don't see anything in terms of the actual like specs themselves,
Mm-hmm.
but I wouldn't be surprised if it probably more than anything is just running on the previous generation specs. That would be my assumption, but I don't personally know. Yeah, that's such a weird thing though, because like for me personally, the dock is like that's almost exclusively how I use the Switch at this point. Like I don't realistically take it out of dock to play. Like I don't personally take it to go. So
Yeah.
seeing that there's no dockable features whatsoever is really surprising to me. I feel like that's a core part of like what makes a Switch so handy is that you can play it as a console or as a mobile
Mm-hmm.
device. Like that's the
Here's
real big pro on it.
Now here's an interesting thing too, because I'm looking into it a little bit because they actually have a whole full on compare thing on the on the Nintendo site.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The thing with the games, what it says compatible games, is it says Nintendo Switch games that support handheld mode,
Yeah.
meaning not all games will be able to play it on the
Right.
Lite. And
Right.
then then it's and you are right, the screen is smaller. It says it's 3.6 inches high, 8.2 inches long
Mhm.
for the Lite. And then what was the other thing I saw in here? And the battery life is longer.
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense.
So
I mean, if they're going to make it as a mobile, like it's essentially a mobile exclusive console at this point.
mhm.
So
Yeah.
improving the battery life just makes sense overall. I don't really see
Yeah.
an issue with
Yep.
that. The thing that I
Actual screen.
think
Yeah, go ahead.
personally, the thing that I think personally is really weird, which I don't know personally how expensive it is to set in like separate buttons versus putting in a directional pad. That seems like a really weird and not super necessary change. I get it to a degree because that's just how like
Mm.
most of their handheld devices are in the first place. But it realistically accomplishes the same function. I feel like you don't really have to change that. Like
Yeah.
if you want directional control features, just like mark them as directional buttons, I guess. I don't know. For me personally, that just seems like a weird thing that you have to change. I feel like that's not exactly a relevant like upgrade or downgrade realistically. Um, but yeah, I don't know. The dock thing is the part that really, really confuses me because that has to be, I guess that is hardware, but that makes me immediately wonder what cuts that they made in terms of hardware. Because, for example,
Uh-huh.
if they were using Gen 1 hardware, and Gen 1 hardware is capable of using this HDMI like output in the dock, why is
Mhm.
this one not able to? That's the thing that I don't personally understand. That seems like a weird oversight to me, unless if it's just like maybe it's the specific software that they try to use, and that might just be to cut out like, hey, this is a game that you need Joy-Cons for. For example, like Pokemon Let's Go. You need
Mhm.
Joy-Cons to use it. You can't actually play it fully docked. It's not a thing that you can unfortunately do. So maybe that's the reason, but I don't know. That just seems like such a weird thing to me. That really does.
Yeah. The only thing like I'm kind of disappointed with is there's just
Mhm.
no output, right? Like
Yeah.
there's no can we get like an HDMI out, like a mini HDMI out,
Mhm.
right? Because it might be an eyesore for some people to run an HDMI across your living room just so you can use your hand, so you can display
Yeah.
your handheld out. But if there's no other way to do that with it,
Mhm.
then I would just see myself wanting to get a regular Switch,
Mhm.
um, which I've been close to many times. The only reason being is like if I get a Switch, I'm gonna have to get like a capture card to run into the because
Yeah.
I'm of course gonna stream Pokemon Sword and Shield. You
Yeah.
fucking crazy? Uh, So that's like been the big thing. I'm like, okay, so the fact that I can't dock it or
Uh-huh.
not even necessarily dock it, but do any sort of video out from it
Mhm. Yeah.
has me not really thrilled. Everything else, like, and that's just because my best case use is
Mhm.
I'm gonna stream games.
Yeah.
Um,
And, like,
if
I
I wasn't,
personally wouldn't have an issue if, like, say if it was dockable. So the way that the Switch works, the original Switch, is that, like, what it'll do is it'll focus so much more on providing better quality when you do dock it. That's
Mhm,
one of the big things. I don't really care if, like, the Switch Lite doesn't really put too much effort into really, like, hardcore trying to process information and make it, like, a significantly better quality. That's not
yeah,
a big deal to me. I just prefer to be able to, like, sit down with a controller and play on, like, a monitor
mhm,
rather than always having to play it as just a mobile device. Like, that seems like a weird thing. And I don't know,
yeah,
maybe they'll release, like, like, a smaller dock. I could see that being a thing in the future where they're just like,
mhm,
"Oh, you know how you couldn't dock it? Well, now you can."
yeah.
Updates, quote, unquote, "updates." I could see that being a thing. But, yeah, I don't know. That
I would have a hard time seeing like an update because if there's no slot for it, then
Yeah,
well,
you
that's
really
a
can't
that's the
even.
thing, is that's not necessarily how a Switch works. The way that, like, a Switch works is the power, like the power connector, is
mhm,
actually what goes through the dock to connect all of the features together. So, like, as long as you still have the same power like connector, which it seems to be the case. What I saw, it looked like the exact same one. I don't see why there's realistically a reason. It might be connected in that way. It might not be. And that's
mhm.
probably why, just to, like, save on, like, work. But I don't know. I don't realistically see why not, personally. But yeah.
But yeah, some of the kind of the specs for it, the CPU and the GPU is all the same. They haven't announced anything RAM or anything like that.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
like they have I guess it depends on the mode itself because I know you mentioned about like is it different quality? Well,
Yes.
it must be based on the mode because it says that the Switch itself, the regular Switch,
Mhm.
can get up to 1080p via
Yeah.
HDMI and TV mode.
Mhm.
Otherwise, it's 720 in tablet mode and handheld mode, and that's
Yeah.
what it says for the Lite. Is it's going to be 720 the whole time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm curious to, but like you said though, that makes like how does that work then so they can get it to 1080 via the HDMI? Like,
Yeah. So, what happens in that regard? So, one of the big issues with the Switch is so much of the processing power, because it's all connected to the screen, right? There's not
Mhm.
really, like, a
right,
separation of device there. The only separation is Joy-Cons, and that's it.
right.
Um It's all connected to the screen, and that's why it runs at 720p. Like, it uses so much of its power in a mobile version to power the screen in such a way, which is probably another reason why they upgrade the battery life, is so that way they can run it as 720p consistently. I could definitely see that being the case. But when you dock it, it no longer has to focus on powering that screen, and it also no longer has to focus on using the battery. That's like the big
Mhm.
reasons.
True,
So it can actually just
true.
focus entirely on rendering the game rather than rendering it to the screen that's not necessarily optimized for that sort of thing in general. Does that kind of make sense?
Right.
So,
Yep.
yeah, I can understand that. And the thing is that the dock is what actually moves it. It changes it from a mobile to a TV mode. Initially, on just
Oh, right,
connecting it, it
right,
just
right.
automatically does that. So that's the thing that I don't really like. I wouldn't mind it if it still stayed in mobile mode and it still ran at
Mhm.
720p. I just want the option, personally.
What does it use to transmit the video out? Does it use the dock or does it use the Switch itself?
It uses the dock. There's no it's not connected to the Switch at all. The
Okay, so
Switch, the power output, like the power input to
Mhm,
plug it in,
mhm,
connects
has an
to the
HDMI out.
HDMI. Yes. Well, it connects to the dock in such a way to allow USB connection,
Mm,
HDMI connection, things along those lines. I think there's like even 3 different USB slots on it. Like,
okay.
there's a lot of functionality into the dock. It looks like just a piece of plastic, but there's like
Mhm,
certain connections that are in it that just make it a little bit more.
yeah.
But
The
yeah.
reason I ask is because I'm looking at an article and they're saying, so they have one of those adjustable stands, the Switch adjustable stand,
Mhm.
and I see like an HDMI out on that.
Yeah.
And so it has me wondering if you plug that in and you hold
Mhm.
it like you would
Yeah.
like the Wii U controller, but then just have an HDMI cable running out to whatever, TV or monitor.
Mhm. Yeah. That's
I
that's
wonder if that
basically
would
how it works. At
I'd
least for the original Switch, that is.
yeah.
But
I wonder if that would work with the
Mhm.
Switch Lite. If so, then I change my tune on quite a few things. But if it
yeah.
doesn't, then I'm just like, ah.
Well, that's kind of my big issue on it. Is like I wouldn't realistically have a problem if they made a smaller dock version that worked
Mhm.
exclusively for that one. I don't
Yeah.
realistically have an issue with that. But it just seems weird that they're just like that's never ever gonna happen. That
Mhm.
seems weird to me. I get it to a degree. I just don't think it's a change. Like, I feel like the changes that were made don't necessarily justify a $100 difference. $100
Yeah.
is big, don't get me wrong, but it's still
Mhm.
$200 for a portable handheld device that can't do anything else. Like, it just does handheld.
Yeah.
And to me personally, that's a bit much.
Mhm.
But then again, I'm cheap, so there's that little detail.
So, Ren,
Uh huh.
what do you think is the best use case for the Switch Lite?
Oh, by far travel. Like, I mean, any of
Mhm.
the situations where you normally used the Switch as, like, if you use the Switch as an undocked device the majority of the time, by far, this is probably the best thing that you could get. Like, if you're
Uh-huh.
going to be like, I need a mobile device, this is
Mhm.
definitely the way to go for it. Like, if you want to use it exclusively for that. If you want to have it connected to a monitor or something like that, obviously not. Like, it doesn't have that functionality to begin with. But if you're
Mhm.
just like, I want to play some, like, because you can play Breath of the Wild in mobile mode. There's a lot of games that you can.
Yeah.
The very few games that you can't play in mobile
Mhm.
mode. And the big shocking one is Pokemon Let's Go. That's the one that
Yeah.
always caught me off guard because you need to remove the docks in order to play. You
Mhm.
need to remove the Joy-Cons, excuse me. I don't know if they made like some options for that kind of game specifically because Let's Go is a pretty huge title for them. Like that realistically
Mhm.
is, and that's not a big thing that needs to be changed. As a matter of fact,
Yeah.
most people don't really like that functionality in the first place. And I'm
Mhm.
actually there's another thing I'm kind of curious about. So in the Switch, there's a gyro, and I don't necessarily know if that's implemented into the Lite version. I didn't check. I didn't even look at it. But there's a gyro that does detect a lot of like motion movement because there is motion controls in it. Even though some people might not like them, that's still a thing.
Mhm.
But yeah, I don't know. I'm definitely curious about that. Um, it doesn't seem like a bad purchase per se. It's not a purchase I would make because I really like having something that I can dock and be its own exclusive console rather than just, for me personally, a giant Game Boy. Like I don't want that.
Mhm.
But that's for me personally. If you're somebody that does a lot of traveling and things like that, by far this is going to be the best thing for you. Because I mean, the one of the big issues as well with the original Switch is the battery life isn't super great, depending on what
Yeah.
kind of games you're playing. If you're playing Breath of the Wild, you're going to run out that battery pretty fast. That being said, if they did upgrades to the battery, you can probably play it for an extended period of time and be fine. I don't really see a
Mhm.
reason why not. So yeah, if you're a traveling kind of person, by far, this seems like a good idea.
Yeah.
If you're somebody that'd be interested in connecting it, or you just want to connect it to a monitor, or you want something like that, probably not. I'd probably just go with the regular Switch personally.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Bubba, what are your overall thoughts on it?
I honestly for some people, yeah, it's cheaper so that people can go that route. But looking at from my perspective, like full time working and everything, I honestly would rather go the extra $100 just to
Mhm.
just to connect it to your TV or whatever. Because yeah, you can stream it, you can do whatever you want with it. You have so much more features just for that extra $100,
Hmm.
just to do a bit more that
Yeah.
make a huge difference. Like it's like, yeah, you can buy the light for $200, and it's like, oh yeah, this is fun. If only it was a bigger screen. Well, extra hundred
Yeah.
dollars, you can play it on any freaking screen you can connect it to.
Yeah.
So I don't know. To me, this seems like something I would buy my kids if I had kids.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I wouldn't buy it for myself.
Hmm.
Maybe if like the niece was running in here a bunch of times, but like I'd probably buy it for her. I just have a hard time seeing somebody that travels a lot that's gonna buy this. Because
Right.
yeah, look at the battery life on it.
Hmm.
4 to 7 hours, like
Yeah.
I
It's a lot of electrical babysitting.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. I just for that small of a battery life, I don't see it as a
Mhm.
travel to go.
Yeah.
It's more of I'm going to spend more time staring at it charging than playing it
hmm
Yeah.
And
because I don't
that's
know how fast
actually,
the charging stick is, but
you raised another point that I wasn't even really considering when it comes to the thing. Like, I don't really mind the Switch when I'm playing as a mobile device because I understand, yes, the battery life is lower just because that's the way it is. But, like, in terms of the screen size, I think the screen size is perfect for the original Switch. Like, I think it's, like, that's pretty spot on for the size I'd want in the first place. If not, maybe, like, a teeny bit too small. So going with an even smaller device might be a little frustrating for people. And another thing is like your hands on the controller. I didn't even consider this either, but when you're holding a Switch undocked, it doesn't feel right. Like it feels obviously not ergonomic. Like it's like a board essentially is what you're holding. You're holding like a little board and there's no real ergonomic handling towards it. The Joy-Cons feel weird. It's overall not a pleasant experience in terms of that regard. So making it even
Yeah.
smaller where you're like, I need baby hands to play this, I could see that being a big deal too. That was something that didn't even cross my mind, but yeah.
I think the pad kind of helps it though, because like the other one is more split. It's like
Mhm.
for the on the left side. It actually being a pad maybe kind of helps that, but
That might help it, yeah.
yeah, but
Cool. Anything else on the Switch Lite coming to your guys' minds right now?
do either of you have a Switch?
Yeah, I have a Switch. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
I
I
was
don't know.
looking into one, but I haven't really gone forward with it yet.
The only thing I can think of is it kind of limits like the upcoming games that will be made in a degree of a lot of games are made with the assumption that you do have Joy-Cons. Like you can just if you want to have Joy-Con support in your game, you can. But like it's not necessarily a mandatory thing. But when something like this gets released where it's like there's no Joy-Cons, yeah, it's not a thing. It's all one device. Like people build for the lowest common denominator most of the time. So that immediately means that most likely there's going to be a significant amount of games that aren't using Joy-Con support in that regard. Which to me personally that's not a big deal. Sometimes I find them kind of frustrating to deal with. Let's Go is the big example where like at first you're like this is a fun mechanic and then like 10 minutes later you're like I am tilted. I want out of this. But yeah, I don't know. For people that do enjoy that side of things, I could see that being like a feels bad on that one. But yeah, that's basically it. That's my last point essentially.
Cool. Ren, what do we talk about next?
We are talking about once I remember. Oh, SteamLabs. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
SteamLabs.
Yeah.
So this was one of those things we've talked about game discovery a little bit.
Mhm.
We've talked about like just some different like interesting ways that like Discord has done stuff, which I haven't heard anything about Discord gaming in a while.
Yeah.
I think we've talked about GOG Galaxy, which isn't necessarily about game discovery, but is another kind of like tertiary app that like helps you catalog your games and find stuff.
Mhm.
So this is a kind of a re-evaluation on Valve and Steam's part for their game recommendation and discovery
Mhm.
stuff. Do you want to give all the full details on that?
I can give some gists. So one,
Mm-hmm.
there's three big things that they're announcing with it. And the first one is 6-second game trailers for every game that's on Steam, which I think is pretty great. Like I believe it's actual gameplay if I remember correctly in it. Like they actually have to show gameplay. It's not necessarily a trailer in itself. But that's an immediate plus for me because there's a lot of games out there that are either really bad, but they'll try to sell you on something like a cutscene or a cinematic or something along those lines, or like like a full-on trailer, and then just sell you off of that exclusively. I've seen multiple games do it, and then like the game itself sucks, and then I just hate the fact that I spent money on it. But it also gives an opportunity for games that might look maybe not the most pleasant, gives you a little tiny bit of insight to at least see what's going on there for developers that are maybe like really small, because most people do put out like gameplay for the most part when it comes to Steam. But that being said, that's not everybody. A lot of them are just pictures, so just putting that out there. One, reduces the amount of just trash that's put out, because most people probably won't even put the effort into making a 6-second video. It's a shocker, but like that's a thing. It really is. You'll notice so many like what are they? Asset flips, where it's just like, oh, random asset flip game 27, and it's just pictures, and that's it. So I'm assuming most of them won't have, like, they won't do that. I really doubt it. But, so yeah, at least at the bare minimum, it's a mild limiter when it comes to that. At best case, it shows gameplay of games that I wouldn't normally see, and I can go to any game on Steam and know I get to see some sort of gameplay. At least something. And that's really nice to me. I really like that. The second one is an actual recommendation survey, if you will. So for those who don't know how Steam's recommendation settings work, it'll track somewhat games that you've played and will try to recommend you different games sort of along those lines. Try is the big word, because for example, for the most part, I play shooters when it comes to Steam. I'll play shooters, or I'll play like Stardew. That's very different in terms of itself. So it tries to figure out something along those lines. I've had it recommend NBA 2019, which has, like, when it showed it to me, it was like, you would love this game. You would absolutely love it. And then it has, like, overwhelmingly negative reviews, and, like, it's just highly criticized as, like, a cash grab title, and that's it. And I'm like, okay, I don't know what the entire point of recommending this to me was. I don't see the issue. Like, I don't know why you did that. Sometimes, very rarely, it'll recommend something I actually care about. 90% of the time that I spend going through the recommendations, I think it gives you up to 20 games at one point. I probably reject 90% of them, and look at one of them, and then maybe follow the second one. Maybe. But for the most part, it's all of them are denied, and then like 10% I even remotely give an opportunity to. The way that this is going to work is it's more of a survey, in the sense that, like, you can actually choose what kind of game you'd be interested in. I'm curious to see if they're going to be like, what out of like these types of games, what would your top 3 be? For example, when you make a Twitch account, that's actually a thing when you make a Twitch account nowadays. It'll be like, what games are you interested in? And it'll show you a list, and you can be like Borderlands, and then like Destiny and Halo, and it'll be like, okay, we'll show you like these kind of games and maybe a couple others. I'm hoping it has something along that, as well as having sliders, which they did show. They did show that they had sliders, and I believe one of them was for popularity versus niche games, which is cool, because I don't want to see every single AAA title known to man. I already see them enough everywhere else as it is. I think I'm good. But being able to see that, to see like new games that like newer creators might be interested in making, that's a cool thing. I'm trying to remember what the other one was. I believe the other one was a slider in terms of review ratings as well, where you can search explicitly only for overwhelmingly positive, to maybe overwhelmingly positive to very positive, all the way to like, I just want to look at the horrible games. I want to see the trash. I want to see the garbage. Just show me it. But yeah, I think that's super cool. I think that's really nice. It just felt like the previous recommendation settings they had in the first place didn't make any sense whatsoever. And the final one, which I personally don't care about, is I guess they're going to be showing like an automated video where they essentially announce like featured games that are coming up soon. So say, for example, Cyberpunk 2077 is coming out. And for that month, they'll be like, okay, we're going to have Cyberpunk 2077, some other AAA games, and maybe like a cool indie game. That's my expectations for it. That's what I'm expecting to see on it. So that in itself, I don't really care about. I feel like that's kind of just rehashing what's already available on Steam right now, with just the way that it bases its store page, where the first thing that you actually see is the featured games. Like, you don't get to see indie titles, you don't get to see any of that. It's just featured games as your like core thing immediately. So I personally, I don't see the reason of doing that. I can kind of get it, but mostly I don't really care. But those are the 3 things that they realistically announced. I'm sure they have more things planned, I'm curious.
Yeah.
The big things that I want them to expand upon for sure is maybe I would personally prefer if they made the gameplay section, like the little trailer gameplay thing that they have, longer.
Mm-hmm.
I would like that to be longer. It'd be awesome if they could make it 20 seconds at least, because I don't want to get stuck in like, oh, here's a little cutscene and people abusing that. As well as more expanded options when it comes to its recommendations thing, because I would definitely be intrigued. I want to at least see where they take that, because right now it's pretty meaningless. I get recommended NBA, cat girl simulators, and like some other random garbage that doesn't make sense, and then I'll occasionally get recommended Call of Duty 7 times. And it's like,
Right.
what was the point of me like realistically going to this? I would have been better off just searching on my own. So your recommendation feature does nothing for me. But yeah, that's all I gotta say on that personally.
Yeah. Let me see what it. Let me look at my recommendations. But Bubba, how? Because you're pretty new into the PC gaming world. Has Steam kind of met your needs, or has it been overwhelming? Like, how do you feel this is going to be for like a new user experience?
Well, holy cow, that's loud. Really, I've actually kind of found myself exploring Steam a lot.
Uh-huh.
I've kind of, because Steam's been kind of like the first thing I go to when it comes to
Right.
finding games, because I don't
Mhm.
know too much going outside of Steam. Like just the other day, I actually went to Humble for the first time. I've never been on it my entire life, and I'm just like, I want a new game, but I don't want to spend like a ton either.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like I don't want to spend, $60 on a brand new game that I've never even heard of. So it's like I'm gonna look for something, within the $20 range or $10 range or something. So,
Yeah.
I just find myself exploring, and even I look at the recommendations right now. I don't know. I don't even know what this first game is, but like, and I haven't looked too much into it, but like I've had the same similarity of you, Ren, too, because like I've gotten NBA recommended to me
Yeah.
too, and it's like I don't play sports games on my computer,
Exactly.
because for me, sports games is more for the console.
Mhm.
And I even had a buddy that told me that too. He said he will never play it on PC. It's just
Mhm.
sports games on PC is just not worth it, and you're
Yeah.
not going to play it on mouse and keyboard. You're going to play it on a controller.
Yeah.
So, that's just one thing. But like, I try to find a game on Steam, and it just seems like I can't find anything.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I can't seem to because I'm willing to go as far as looking at an indie game, and if it grabs my attention, I'm gonna freaking play it. And I don't even know. And I had mentioned it to Danie a little bit. I'm not sure if it is a indie game or not, but it's something called Golf It.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody's heard of that. Would that be considered an indie game or
Yes,
not?
that is considered
It
an indie
is?
game. Yes. Yeah.
Well, I had a friend that brought it to me, and we played it, and we just had the time of our lives. Like just a simple
Yeah.
game of miniature golf just had the time of my life with my friend. It's like you don't need to play these AAA games all the time
Yeah.
to have fun with friends. Like it's something so simple as this, where
Mhm.
this game is only, I think it was like $9, $10. Something so simple, and it's a fun time.
Yeah.
And one other
Yeah.
question I have too is PUBG considered to be indie?
PUBG is
Or no?
not really
It is
an
not.
indie title. I don't
That
consider
makes
it to
sense.
be.
Like
I would
when
consider it to be like a double A title.
Because didn't when it first came out, wasn't it considered one? Or
Well,
no?
it was through like large developers. It was just
It was.
it was released in early access. So I can understand why
Oh.
you would think that it would be like an indie title, because a lot of indie titles are released in early access, but nowadays
Right.
a lot of AAA titles are getting released that way. And I can get into an entire fucking conversation about that in itself.
Yeah.
But yeah. I would personally put that more into a double A category, where it's not like it's obviously not the most polished thing in the world, and you know that they didn't spend a crap ton of money making it, but they put like a decent amount of time and effort into it.
Right.
That's for
Right.
sure one of the things that you can see. But another thing, so a thing that I wasn't even considering at first was so we've had somebody on the past come on, Fan, who's actually really into these games that I personally never look into, personally, where it's the really niche titles, like the super like niche things that I didn't even know existed in the world. The ability to filter out all the AAA garbage and just look for like the random thing that like Greg from like 2 cities over made. That's cool. That's really cool. I really gotta like give respect to that. So I don't know. That's been one of the big things with Steam in the first place, is that like a lot of people consider it to not be super friendly towards the indie market. It is to a degree where like anybody can post their stuff there realistically, but in terms of searching it up, it's pretty like you're flooded with nonsense. Half the time, I'll even look for a AAA game, and half the time I can't find it because it's just like, look at all these other things that have one word out of the 4 words I put in. And it's like, great, that's cool. I'm a big fan of that. But yeah, for situations like that for fan, I would say this is a huge upgrade.
Yeah.
But
for sure.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm excited. I'm definitely excited. I feel like this is the right direction that they need to go into in the first place, because it's just Steam has been feeling more and more corporate, and also more and more like it's so difficult to browse at times. It really is. Even when you look up certain games, like I'll search indie, like indie horror, and half of the games aren't horror. Half of them are like the nudity anime like romantic novel, and I'm just like, I don't know what this has to do with anything. And then some of them are even just troll tags.
You spelled whore.
Exactly. And I'm just like, I don't know what's going on here.
Sons.
No. No. Oh man.
Son. Senpai, notice me.
But yeah. And as Kamikaze or OsX put into the Twitch chat, is I usually just search titles I found on other sites instead of searching Steam for them. And I completely agree. That's what I do more often than not, in the, like nowadays anyway. Is like, I can't rely on Steam's search at all. Like, I can't. I'd rather go to just Google and look up a game. Hell, I can like type in what I think the game is, and it'll give me like 3 recommendations of it's probably this game, or this game. Don't be dumb. And it's like, okay, great. Versus I try to like put in any sort of a descriptor at all in Steam, and it's like, you want to play some cat girl simulators? I'm down for it. And it's like, I'd rather not. I think I'm good. But yeah,
they watched your maid outfit streams and just really...
yeah. That's where they really get the information. They watch they watch everything that you do. Yeah. Watch out if you've been doing some interesting things. Anyway,
the two comments I have too is just the one is I really do appreciate the videos that they put on them too, because that is a huge part when I'm looking at games. I won't even read anything. I'll just watch the clip that they have for the couple seconds, and if it's worth it, I'll continue to look through it more. But if the video is crap, I won't even look at it, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And then secondly,
agree.
Do you think that there is kind of like, I don't know if it's out in the open, something that people know about, but like, is it possible, since that like me and you both have said that we were recommended NBA, but neither of us play sports. So do you think that there's a possibility that 2K is like advertising on Steam itself?
Oh, I'm sure. I am sure. Especially when it comes to something along the recommendation feed. I would not doubt it in the slightest. Because the thing is in the recommendation feed itself, you can deny a game, like you could ignore it, and it will still show up in the recommendation feed later. That's the thing that's really weird. So, like, I'll deny NBA 2019, but the next time I try to refresh recommendations, it's like, are you sure? I mean, we have it. Yeah, I think you'd be really into it. You like basketball, right? And it's like, no, not particularly. But yeah, I'm sure of that. I don't know. And they do try. I'll give them credit on this. Because they have a certain search criteria, and they show you what the criteria are. So, for example, if you look through recommendations, and you find a game, and you scroll down, it'll be like, we've recommended you this game because of this reason, and this reason. And some of them will be, like, either checked correctly, or, like, marked off. So, like, for example, we recommended this game to you because it's overall had, like, a really good rating. Like, it's just an overwhelmingly positive rating. We don't see any reason why you wouldn't be into this. A good example would be, like, Return of Obra Dinn. That's a good example of it. That one shows up in my feed because of that reason. Um,
Mhm.
Sometimes they'll show up in your feed because another friend has played it, and they're thinking,
Yeah.
okay, that friend really likes it. You might like it too. That seems fair. That seems reasonable. But specifically when it comes to things like NBA, like there's no real. I don't know a friend at all who has played an NBA game in the
Mhm.
slightest. The ratings are just bad, and there's not really a reason behind it. I couldn't find any real reason. I think they might have recommended it to me because it was considered an action game, and
Yeah.
that was their way of getting in, was like, oh, it's totally an action game and just not sports. Definitely
Mhm.
not. But yeah, I don't know. It seems like the current one just doesn't make sense. It realistically doesn't. There's some things that in theory sound good, but when they're actually put in, they just don't make a clue of sense whatsoever. Like, okay, one game has overwhelmingly positive reviews. That doesn't mean it's up my alley, for one. It doesn't mean it in the
Yeah.
slightest. If it's like there was okay, don't ask why I get so many random anime games. I don't even know why
It's
personally.
because you're secretly a weeb. Just come out of the weeb
You
closet.
got me. You got me. I'm a big fan of Naruto. That's me. Anyway, they recommended me like this anime RPG game, and it had overwhelmingly positive reviews. But like, that's just not the art style I like. I could care less about that kind of art style whatsoever. So I don't know. I figured like if I just stop accepting those ones, if I ignore them, maybe it would learn. But its learning process does not just it doesn't seem to learn at all. That's the
Yeah.
big thing I notice. But yeah. I don't know. I'm excited. Hopefully that turns out a lot better. I think that's a
Yeah.
huge area for growth.
Mhm. Especially as competition from Activision Blizzard starts to get up, and Epic
Yeah.
Game Store,
Hmm.
Discord, Humble Bundle, all
Hmm.
these different game stores. They do need to kind of up their game in that aspect, make it a lot easier for people to find
Yeah.
games that they want to play. And yeah,
Yeah.
that's gonna be welcomed. I'm kind of excited to experiment with it and play with it every once in a while and kind of see where the
Hmm.
updates are going for it.
Yeah. And they have
Um,
updated certain things. They're just not
yeah,
realistically like super talked about because to be fair, they're not the absolute most important. And sometimes they don't even
yeah.
work super properly. So for example, the friends list that got updated a while back. I personally like it, but for some reason it's not implemented in games. Like when you
Mhm.
go and try to invite somebody to your game, it doesn't show the new friends list where it's organized based on what a person's playing. It shows you the old version where it's just organized by alphabetical order of people, and it's like,
Right.
that does literally nothing for me. Thank you. Um,
Absolutely nothing.
but yeah, that's one thing that I do have an issue with. But yeah, I'm glad to see that they're making like adjustments. I'm very happy to see that because it's been very stale for the most part. That's realistically been the only change that's happened that mattered, was the friend
Yeah,
request thing, or the friends list rather. But yeah, I totally agree.
cool. Um, if you guys don't mind,
Hmm.
we probably should move on to another topic here.
Uh-huh.
What's next on the list, Ren?
We got the RetroArch thing going on, which I actually personally don't know a whole lot about, so I can
Yeah.
blissfully shut up and listen and understand what's going on.
So I can talk a little bit about this.
Hmm.
Kind of get us over the basic steps here. So RetroArch is an emulator program by Libret
Hmm.
LibRetro. I,
Okay.
I was looking at it. I'm like, that's not quite right. Quite right. I was gonna say Libretto or something like that, but LibRetro.
Uh-huh.
So I'm assuming Liberated Retro.
Uh-huh.
Let me just take a random guess at that. They have this, so they're an open source software company, and they designed this emulator software called RetroArch. It's going to be added to Steam on July 30th, and it's kind of got some people in kind of a weird gray um, area questioning the legality and all sorts of stuff like that.
Hmm.
Um, so it's an emulation software, so you can emulate older game systems,
Right.
other hardware, uh, natively on your computer.
Hmm.
Um, so commonly for a lot of people who are like Pokemon fans, like I've talked about a ROM hack that was an emulated game here. I did all my Pokemon Crystal Clear playthrough. That was
Hmm.
on the stream. That was done through the VBA Virtual Boy Advance.
Right.
emulator. So there's been some questions about if it's allowed on Steam, and Steam
Mhm.
doesn't really have any rules against emulators. I don't know if that's an oversight on their part,
Mhm.
or if that's like just never been
Yeah.
a problem.
To my
Um,
understanding, emulators themselves aren't illegal because like that allows like ROM hacks or actual like
mhm,
created for the purposes of that sort of thing kind of games. I don't
yeah,
believe they're illegal in that terms, so they probably didn't even consider it, and they probably don't realistically care. But
yeah,
I don't know because I'm looking through it a little bit, and I it's a front end for multiple emulators. It's
yeah,
not necessarily its own emulator, but it uses multiple different ones and combines it into essentially one giant compiled emulator. That makes more sense. Those are words.
yeah.
But
It's
yeah,
almost like a marketplace for, or not necessarily like a marketplace, but it's like
uh-huh. It's like an interface
it,
for it.
yeah,
It's
it's an interface
essentially
for
just
emulators. Thank you.
yeah. It's just
Um,
I don't
like I'm looking at the website right now, and it has
uh-huh.
like a work in progress 3DS emulator, Nintendo 3DS emulator.
Mhm.
It's got one for the Wii and GameCube as an emulator.
Mhm.
Um, let's see what else is an early Tomb. They have one called Open Laura.
Mhm.
It's an early Tomb Raider game engine recreation. So I guess
Mhm.
that would just help you. In let's see, Melon DS is a work in progress. Nintendo DS emulator,
Yeah.
Game Boy. So a lot of them are like Nintendo, but then there's also like a PX 68K
Mhm.
emulator.
Yeah.
Um,
Like there's a lot of them. It's not even necessary. Like
mhm,
these are the ones they're featuring. These are their latest
yeah,
scores that he's talking about. But there's quite a few. There is definitely a ton. Um but I do have to agree though. I wonder how that's going to play out because it's not
mhm,
necessarily on Steam if they allow an emulator. At least in the process that I'm thinking, that's not realistically an issue in and of itself. But
yeah,
you got to get the ROM somewhere. And that's where
yeah,
the issue lies. That's the big thing. Um,
hmm,
so I don't know. Like, I have no idea what they're gonna plan on doing with that. Maybe they
yeah,
have some sort of plans to announce like ROMs specifically for it that are actually
hmm,
licensed and you can pay for them. But
yeah.
I doubt it. Um,
So I actually had a use case in my mind
mhm,
for it. And so I've had problems with games that I've bought on Steam sale.
mhm,
Most notably Fallout 3. I tried to do a
yes,
Fallout 3 playthrough on my stream.
yeah,
And in it Fallout 3 that I bought from Steam does not play well with Windows 10.
mhm,
Even in compatibility mode, even when I've done different mods and done all sorts of different things,
mhm.
I still crash. I still hit frames, which I should not be hitting. I should not be getting
Yeah,
any
not hitting
frame,
frames on like an overly 10-year-old game.
hmm especially when I don't have any frame drop issues with Skyrim
Mhm,
at all. Um, so I have all these issues with Fallout 3. So I was thinking about this. I'm like, well, what if RetroArch could be a way for users to deal with compatibility issues with different hardware? Because we're getting to a point where a lot of games past a
mhm.
certain point or past a certain age are going to start running into some major compatibility issues unless devs
Yeah.
see that as like, because Bethesda doesn't care about Fallout
Mhm.
3. People can buy Fallout 4 and Skyrim. They can buy Fallout 76. Um, do whatever they're gonna do.
Yeah.
Um, so that was my best use case scenario in my mind was okay. So RetroArch, what if it is like a way for Steam users to emulate something? They run something
Mhm.
on they run this on their computer and somehow play the games that just aren't compatible with their systems anymore using RetroArch.
Mhm. That would be
That's where,
cool. I don't
yeah,
know if that would necessarily like that'd be awesome if that was a thing. But
mhm,
like you're right, Bethesda doesn't really care. So why would Bethesda put in the effort to make it
Yeah.
compatible? That's my immediate thought process.
Well, and I'm not even
Because
thinking like devs doing it. I'm thinking modders being able to,
Mhm,
you run RetroArch and Fallout 3 in conjunction with each other
mhm,
and create some sort of, or maybe like RetroArch allows you to um, almost run like a virtual machine of some sort that
mhm.
would be
Yeah.
Windows 7.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
something kind of funky or weird. I'm not like
Mhm.
I'm sure there are IT people out there or like computer scientists in this space who just heard me say that and are like slapping their heads. I'm sure
Windows.
what I
Only a tiny bit, but it's fine.
But you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
some weird way that they can use it to
Yeah.
create a compatible mode to run that would, to me, when I was thinking about this,
Mhm.
thinking about like legality and stuff like that, because the
Yeah.
problem with emulators, as you said, is, well, and we've talked about it before, being you can get ROMs and you can play ROMs,
Mhm.
but the line between piracy and not being piracy is if you already own
Mhm.
that game.
Yeah.
And not, so if you already have like a copy of like Pokemon Red
Yeah.
and um you just get a ROM for
See
Pokemon Red, you still have the right to play that game.
See, I could
So
definitely see that being more of a thing where essentially what it does is it does more of a check to see if it's in your library, for example. So say
uh-huh.
in terms of Fallout 3, maybe they actually already have the converted ROM file for it. Because the thing
Hmm.
is that you can't really just throw I can't throw Fallout 3 for my PC into an emulator and just make it work. Does that kind of make sense?
Hmm.
It's just not
Yeah.
compatible for it. So maybe it just unlocks the ability to use that ROM. That would be nice. I
Hmm.
think that would definitely be a cool thing and not super hard to implement in itself. Um, but yeah, that would be I could see that being a case scenario, and that'd be really cool. Um,
Yeah.
that way at least there's no legality issues, they own the license for it.
Hmm.
Um, things along those lines. But yeah, I don't know. That's a very broad thing because
Hmm.
okay, that would excuse the things that are on Steam. But what about the things that aren't on Steam? What about that
Yeah.
random ROM that you just got off of coolroms.gov? Yeah, and you're just all like, I
Right.
need this one. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I have a few things that I do have a mild issue with it. I would
Hmm.
understand if I had to pay for ROMs, and I'd also understand if they had a ROM store in Steam. I'd be like, okay, makes sense. The developers for it need to get paid somehow in the first place.
Yeah.
That just has to be a thing, as well as at least paying for the license fee to actually play the game to consider yourself
Hmm.
owning it. But but yeah, I don't know. That in itself is a very huge task to take on for Steam in itself, because that's essentially creating an entirely new store.
Yeah.
That's the big step you got to take is you got to recreate something you already have, but make it exclusive to ROMs.
Hmm.
So yeah, I don't know. It's a big gap, and I have no clue at all what they're planning to do with that. I'm just curious, and part of me is like they won't do anything with it, and part of me also is like maybe they'll just say this is too much effort and just kibosh it altogether and remove it off of Steam.
Yeah.
I could see that being a thing too. But yeah.
I I honestly believe that I think they're gonna go through with it.
Hmm.
Because it seems like it's a lot of hassle, but you would be surprised of like how many people would get into this.
Hmm.
Because
Hmm.
something as small as this, and I even have a
Yeah.
CD-ROM here, which surprises the hell out of me. I even found this. But if you can read this or not,
Hmm.
Where in Time is Carmen San Diego? The game is called. You have no idea how much of nostalgia that is for me if this were to go through and they were able
Yeah.
to operate Windows 98.
Right?
To be able to do that and being able to go back to like a childhood thing, I would spend a lot of money to get all that back,
Yeah.
honestly, in my opinion. So I would root for them to being able to figure out how to work this out for copyright issues or whatever the thing was,
Yeah.
Hmm.
and because I would want to see this, in my
Hmm.
opinion.
Yeah. No, for sure. I agree too. I think it would definitely be an awesome thing if they really implemented that. because I'm in the same boat. Maybe not necessarily with Carmen San Diego, but I mean, I want to play Halo 2. I want to play Halo 2, and I don't want to have to play it like through a guy. Like, I had a CD player that I had to like put it onto another computer to put all the files over, to move it to a USB, to do all that. I'd like to just play the goddamn game. I don't want to have to go through the trouble. So like, that would be super nice. I don't want to go through the hassle of trying to make a game compatible to play on my computer. I just want to be able to be like, here's $3. Just give me the game. Just let me play it. You don't even care at this point. It doesn't matter to you. Like, what? How much do you really care about that fucking? Oh my god, what is it? Putt Putt Saves the Zoo. Like, how much you really care about Putt Putt? Really? I don't think you care that much. Come on, I just want to play as my favorite purple car. I want to go save the giraffes. But like,
I'd say that's a dead franchise.
Wow. Damn. But yeah.
Putt. Let's see the last time that we've had a Putt Putt game real quick.
Hey, don't hate on Putt Putt, okay? We're talking about retro gaming here. But excuse me? Oh man.
Honestly, though, there is quite a few games like from PlayStation 2 and the first PlayStation that's like, holy cow, I would like love to play those, but like I just don't have the energy to go through the freaking tug of cords and controllers.
Exactly.
I don't want to go through with it.
I don't want to have to go on eBay to hope to God I can find a working PlayStation 1. Like, I don't want to do that at all. Like, I will gladly pay you for the fucking console emulator and the ROMs. I'm chill with it. It doesn't matter to me. But yeah. That'd be sick. I wouldn't have an issue if they got it working. I just think, like, it's the matter of getting it working. That either is A, going to take so much time, or B, is just going to be too much of a hassle for them to bother with. That's my thing. Because if they implement it correctly, I could see this being awesome. Like, I could see it being absolutely incredible, and I'd probably own it. Like, just immediately, I'd be like, yes, I definitely want to play Harvest Moon for the PlayStation 1 on my computer. I can't.
Do you think they're going to make you pay for the emulator, though, too? Or is that just going to be incorporated with Steam?
So, for me personally, I could see them paying. So, the thing about it is, like, it's not just one emulator, right? It's a series of emulators. I could see them charging for specific emulators, as well as charging for ROMs. Like, I could see that being a thing. Maybe they don't charge for the emulators. I don't know. I could see that being, like, an iffy ground for, like, say, for example, I would think Sony would really want in on their, like, PSX, like, revenue from their, like, their PlayStation emulators. I could definitely see that being a case. But also at the same time, maybe they don't want to go through the hassle of doing it. But, like, they could easily just be like, yes, whatever ROMs we make money off of. Sure.
So, right now, as I see it, you can download it for free off their website.
Okay.
So my assumption is that everything is going to be free, because everything is also open source.
Yeah.
So my other assumption being that it'll either let you get the ROMs from like Steam or from their store or something like that, or if you have ROMs already through whatever means, illegal or legal, that you can run it as well. That's going to be my operating assumption.
Yeah.
So,
why is it considered illegal in some situations?
Game
for
piracy.
ROMs themselves?
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Right. Game piracy. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Which is why cool ROMs got taken down.
A lot of ROM sites have been gone. Like, as a matter of fact, I tried to check it recently. I could find like one. I could find one or two, and it had like a 10th of their library that they used to have. So I don't know. They've been cracking down on it. I'll give them props on that. Like, I'll give them credit. Like, they've definitely been putting effort to not let. Yeah, exactly. They've been putting out a lot of effort to not allow it. So I could see them being like, I could see them being like, you know what? Fine, we'll allow it as long as you just pay us a fee for whatever game. Like, I could see that being a thing. I don't see why they'd have that big of an issue with it, personally.
Yeah.
But yeah, as long as they're making money, even if it's like, what, 50 cents a ROM?
Right.
Like, money is money. And if you're making money off of a dead game, more power to you.
Right.
But yeah.
Um. So off of that,
Uh-huh.
first off, Bubba, I saw you're typing in our chat earlier. Do you have to go or?
Very impatient niece is wanting my attention.
Gotcha.
So
Gotcha. Well, let's just do like a quick little thing on this Kickstarter and then
Mhm.
we'll wrap things up real quick.
Yeah.
So, there's been two stories I wanted to talk about that involve Kickstarter.
Mhm.
Um, and I just want to get a quick yes or no question from you guys after I explain this. So, Shenmue 3 backers uh on Kickstarter, it's been confirmed that there are some special retail versions of the game,
Mhm.
and the dev says that with those there's some DLC and other content that goes along with the retail versions of the game.
Mhm.
Dev says that they aren't affiliated with the Kickstarter rewards, and that uh and so therefore Shenmue 3 backers are not
Getting
entitled to the
Shenmue
content.
3.
No, entitled to that content, the
Okay.
extra content that comes with the retail version.
All right.
But they will be for sale. That content, that DLC, will be available uh, for purchase separately. So, our backers,
Okay.
my question for you on Kickstarter is are backers entitled to content? And here's my little caveat, especially if they're higher tier. So, let's say they're like an $80 backer,
Uh-huh.
and this special version of the game, this retail version of the game with the DLC
Mhm.
and whatever other special content is $80, right?
Mhm.
$60 for the base game, $10 for this DLC, $10 for these items, right?
Mhm.
So someone paid $80 in the thing and they're getting like the $60 base game and like something else.
Yeah. I there's a line. So I'd say if you're paying for like a lower price, say for example you're paying like
Mhm.
$20, I would say you're not necessarily entitled to the game itself, but say you buy the game, you can connect it to your Kickstarter fund or whatever, and it'll be like, "Okay, you have access to the DLCs. You have access to the amount that like you put in, as well as whatever Kickstarter stuff." Sure, I don't have an issue with that.
Yeah.
You paid $80, I think you deserve the $80 version. Like I think that's
Hmm.
fair. You're paying for a game that's not even out yet and you're giving them your support. So that's the way I see it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
There's been all sorts of issues with Shenmue 3 and Kickstarter.
Mhm.
I mean, because people were upset that it was a Epic Game exclusive, and a lot of people, because of that, got
Yeah.
refunds.
Mhm.
Shenmue 3 and just seems to be Kickstarter done wrong. And we've
Yeah.
seen a lot of Kickstarter games done wrong.
Yeah.
Um,
To be
and I don't.
completely honest, and I'm
Mhm.
really trying to hold back, but like Shenmue 3 looks like it's going to be bad from my eyes. It does not look like it's going to turn out well at all. So,
Yeah.
to me it just looks like a cash grab title, honestly. It
Mhm.
looks like they're just trying to make money off a name.
Yeah.
But I'm really trying to hold back. I'm not going to dive too hard into it, but yeah.
Mhm. Um, the other one
Mhm.
is a game. So this was a Kickstarter that got suspended 24 hours before the Kickstarter was supposed to, the funding period was supposed to end. It's a game called Raw. It is one of those open world RP games, role playing games,
Mhm.
where you're supposed to do, kind of think about GTA role playing servers where you can do anything with anyone. You can create your own, towns and worlds and maps and, drive whatever vehicles you want to drive, create missions, this everything in the kitchen sink, promise the world
Right.
type of game.
Yeah.
Big Fry TV, who come on the show sometime, um, did a video on like because there's a couple of these games that were like announced and in
Mhm.
development, usually from small indie
Yeah.
teams, and he was looking at it with a very skeptical eye.
Mhm.
And it just he was kind of going over some stuff with Raw and talking about the how they got pulled, how Kickstarter only pulls funding or prevents funding for like a variety of very different reasons, like
Mhm.
deliberately misrepresenting themselves,
Yeah.
proving to be just untrustworthy with
Mhm.
money, not fulfilling
Yeah.
backer promises, stuff like that. So and that was what they were sent.
Mhm.
Um, so my thing is or kind of what I wanted to talk about it a little bit is, what do you guys look for in any sort of crowdfunding that is like your immediate red flag?
Oh, that's a red flag? Oh, I was gonna tell you the
Immediate
immediate
red
thing
flag.
I think, like, there's an immediate thing I look
Do
for,
it.
and that's the amount of direction that's shown. A good example is Shovel Knight. They knew exactly where they wanted to go with it immediately off the like instantaneously. It was like, imagine Mega Man-esque type of gameplay, retro gameplay. It's a guy with a shovel. You can use it to like do certain interactions. Relatively simplistic, but there's a lot of depth into it. Like it's a cool game. A lot of neat things. Like it tells it what it is. The immediate, like, even when you were talking about the game, I was immediately like, this game is super scummy. I would never let them have my money at all. Is that they promise the world. They promise everything. The immediate split second where, like, the thing about promising something like Shovel Knight is you can imagine a time frame for it to be done. You can see that it's not something that's going to take years. When you say, when you immediately are all like, it's an RP game, first off, if you have an RP game, you have to have a lot of different mechanics into it. It's not just as easy as like, oh, I can crank out RP games. There's a reason why GTA takes millennia, as well as like, there's also a reason why it's a giant and fast world that people still play. Like, it's a huge game. It's not anything simple. This is a AAA company making a giant game. So like, split second you said RP, I was like, I don't know about this one. When you're all like, yeah, they're promising all these sorts of things, I'm immediately like, no, it's not gonna happen. And just those are the two things I really look at. If you don't have any real goals, if you're just all like, we're gonna make this RP game where it's gonna be like fast and you're gonna be like doing all sorts of crazy things, and if I'm just like, hey, is there gonna be boats in it? And you're all like, hell yeah, there's gonna be boats into it, I'm immediately gonna be like, what? How do you know there's how? How many things are really in this? Because like I need a time frame. I need to know when this game is done. Like otherwise I'm not just gonna do it. And that's another thing with Shenmue 3 is like one of the big things that they also had was like, oh, everybody loves Shenmue 1 and 2, and I even watched somebody play Shenmue 1 and 2, and they didn't even particularly like it. It was just nostalgia factor, and I'm like, okay. And like the amount that they showed, another key thing is what you show really matters. Like, it matters a lot, especially when you're putting into something like Kickstarter, where it's based solely off of trust. Is like, the gameplay looks like it's a PlayStation 2 game. Like, it looks like it's from PS2. And that immediately, like, it shows that you didn't really care. Like, you didn't put that much effort into it. If you're really going for, like, oh, this is going to be for, like, next-gen consoles, but it looks like it was from 10 years ago. No, you don't give two shits about the game. Obviously, you just want it for the revenue. Same thing with, like, yeah, it's a giant RP game, lots of choices, blah, 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 blah. Whatever you ask, it's totally a thing. We swear. It's like, no. No. Yeah, I don't know. Those are the big things I look at. Just direction, sheer scope. If you don't have, like, a crazy scope, if it sounds like you know what you're actually talking about, rather than just being like, oh, yeah, it's gonna be all the thing. It's gonna be crazy, dude. It's gonna be nutty. You're gonna love this. Versus like, this is our game that we're making. If you want to support it, cool. If not, we understand.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Bubba, any thoughts on the Kickstarter stuff?
Not a ton. That's kind of out of my range just a little bit. So
Okay.
What about you, Danny?
I'm always a person of I need proven. I need a proven value before I put my money on something.
Right.
I don't do early access. I don't do pre-orders anymore. I
Yeah.
mean, Insurgency Sandstorm, that was in early access for a while before the official release in December. I didn't touch it. I wasn't gonna pay for it. I wanna play Hunt Showdown.
Yeah.
It's in early access. I'm not gonna touch it. So I need like the proven value first. I need a completed project. I need to be able to get my hands on it. I need to be able to touch, feel, taste it. And for me, Kickstarter, I can't trust it. And
Yeah.
I've heard too many people get burned on Kickstarter
Hmm.
and Indiegogo. And these guys that did Raw, they want to go to Indiegogo. That's what they said they're going to do.
Hmm.
Which to me, I'm hoping Indiegogo is like, y'all were just kicked off of
Yeah.
Kickstarter.
You're
There's some other
kicked off
things
for a
like
reason.
the other things like they're not actually a registered company. They're like Killer
Hmm.
Whale or something like that. They don't
Yeah.
have a registered company. They don't
Hmm.
have anything like that.
Yeah.
It's like just two dudes trying to do it. I'm like,
Yeah. And that right there should give you the biggest thing. Is like it's two people making a giant RP. Like if it takes a AAA company years to make Grand Theft Auto, like there's no way in hell that two dudes, unless if they are like hardcore asset flipping exclusively, are really gonna pull something off like that in any reasonable time frame. Like there's no way.
Was that their kind of goal with this? Was to make another GTA or not really?
Essentially, yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah.
Mhm.
When you look at GTA is probably like the biggest RP there is. Like, and for
Yeah.
good
Oh,
reason. There's so much functionality, and even the modding community is really strong on it. But like, this is something that you even find out when you look at like Arma's DayZ versus actual DayZ standalone.
Mhm.
Modding and creating are two totally different things. Those are not the
Mhm.
same thing at all. Like, there's a reason why DayZ standalone still to this day even is horrible versus like Arma's DayZ, like where it's
Mhm.
significantly better. There's big reasons for it, but yeah, I don't know. It's
Now, if I remember correctly too, and I'm just kind of looking through just a little bit, just so I kind of have an idea a little bit.
Mhm.
Is Kickstarter kind of like, this is your idea, but we need donations to make the game?
yes, yeah.
Now, with them getting kicked off, did these people that donate to this money, did they get it back?
So the funding didn't even go through. They were
Oh, it
still
didn't
in
even
the
hit that part.
yeah. So
Okay.
the way
Mhm.
that it works is that people will pledge a certain amount, and once they hit that, or once they hit a certain deadline,
Yeah.
then then you'll be charged for it.
Hmm.
Kickstarter got it 24 hours, killed it 24 hours before it was set to go for people to be charged.
Hmm.
So they didn't have to do any sort of refund or anything like that, which is good on Kickstarter for doing that
Yeah.
instead of waiting and then having to go through
Yeah.
all these refunds and chargebacks and whatever,
Mhm.
all them. That's a fucking mess.
Yeah.
So good on Kickstarter for that.
Mhm.
But yeah, I'm really hoping Indiegogo and whatever crowdfunding websites are just like, y'all just got kicked off of Kickstarter.
Yeah. Yeah.
Y'all are gonna have to really, prove
Yeah.
that you belong on the website before we let you back on.
Yeah.
um,
And even for this game, was there any gameplay shown at all?
so it was all just like rendered trailers, and they were set to release a gameplay trailer, I believe, the day of, and they still haven't released a gameplay trailer.
That in itself is so sketchy. Like, why would it
Mhm.
take the entire actual Kickstarter time to make any sort of, like, at least a playable demo or, like,
Yeah,
a
tech demo
gameplay
or something.
footage trailer?
So
Like,
Mhm.
that's
If
ridiculous.
this was potentially going to be a scam,
Uh-huh.
then how do you go about, like, because, like, let's say for instance they didn't suspend it, and everyone's pledged
Uh-huh.
all their money. So if
Uh-huh.
somebody wanted to run and take that money,
Mhm.
then like couldn't Kickstarter like sue them or do something? Because like I feel like it'd be really hard.
I'm
You have the
sure.
money, yes, you have the money, but I don't really. Could you really run away with that?
So there have been cases of that, but
Mhm. There
I'm
has been.
sure that like the normal go-to thing is take the money, say that you're working on it, release like maybe one or two gameplay footage trailers, and then just release a piece of garbage. Because there's no you can't just be like, oh, this isn't what I thought it was gonna be when it comes to Kickstarter. Because you're not paying for like the game itself, you're paying in support of the concept. So
To
like
help make it.
yeah, exactly. So like say this group makes like $2 million and then they try to make the RP, which just turns out to be Super Mario 2. Like
Mhm.
that's not they can't really do anything about that at that point. The thing is finished and it's pretty much out of their hands at that point. They can't really do anything. So I'm sure there have been cases where they have taken off, but I think for the most part they have to release at least something.
Mhm.
But yeah, I don't know personally. I really don't know when it comes to that sort of thing. But there definitely have been cases of people taking off with the money. There have been
Yeah.
a couple.
from the YouTube video itself, like the game looks good. Like
Yeah.
if they had the money, it looks like it would be good. But yeah, if you're saying only 2 dudes are doing this, like
Exactly.
what?
And that was like a rendered trailer.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
That was like a pre-rendered.
Yeah,
thing.
it's one thing
Not
for
a
2
text.
guys to make a rendered trailer. That can't be that hard. It's another
Yeah.
thing for 2 guys to make anything of gameplay, let alone anything of actual value and substance. Like that's a big thing. If it's like 2 guys and they're making a relatively small scope game, okay, cool.
Yeah.
I understand it. I get it. If you show any amount of gameplay whatsoever, I'll probably believe it. But if it's, oh, we're 2 guys, but we're super devoted to making this, give us money. Hell no. What, excuse me? What? It's not happening. There's no way in hell. Yeah, and I agree. I'm in the boat nowadays where I don't even purchase early access games anymore. I'm in the same boat as Danie.
Yeah.
I don't do that anymore. I really try my best not to, and I don't like do pre-orders and things like that. But I understand. I get Kickstarter. I do. And like some of my favorite games of all time, Shovel Knight and Hollow Knight, were Kickstarter games. So like it's not like Kickstarter can't work. It's just the games that I really enjoyed also were very honest about their scope of their game and like what they could do, versus just being like, we're a small indie company, but we're gonna make like the ultimate experience in terms of gaming. Like this is gonna be the best thing you've ever seen. AAA companies haven't even gotten close to this. There's a reason why. It's because you're lying. Like there's a reason.
Yeah.
But
Are either you're either lying or you're incredibly delusional on what
yeah,
it actually
exactly.
takes to build something like that.
Yeah.
I think that's it. Is there anything else you guys want to talk about?
I do have one last comment for
Yes.
for this. If 2 dudes can make a game like that raw, I think we should come up with a game called 51 Area.
Oh God, no.
I think we should create a game where you have to plan out a way to storm Area 51. Okay.
So in that game, do you choose like your champions? Like you have Tom DeLonge, fast and speedy. You have Alex Jones, really strong, and
it's just it's some completely ripped off. It's like you have characters like Rihanna Keeves, or something like just stupid names.
Man.
You got Nuck Norris. There you go. That's there you
Nuck
go.
Chorus.
People like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
You have Bob Lazar, who is just creating lasers and. Sorry. My conspiracy UFO side is showing off a little bit. I would really like if we did make an Area 51 game, I would really like an Alex Jones character who can just like throw trucks and scream about gay frogs. Just
oh my God.
Throw the frogs! Throw the frogs!
Anyways, so with that, let's go on ahead and close things down here. Bubba, tell the people where they can find you and what they're gonna get when they get there. Also, show off that sweet shirt.
Oh, it's not. It's a little more than a shirt. It's a sweatshirt.
Oh my God! Tell us more.
You can find me at Abobu. It's backwards. Oh wait, no, it's right on the stream. Never mind.
You get over there, buddy.
On the stream. Never mind. I guess I'm on drugs. Okay. But
I figured.
You can find me at twitch.tv/BubbaPudding. It's Rainbow Six Siege, PUBG, whatever I kind of feel like doing. 75% is Rainbow Six Siege and getting very salty. And when you come in, bring earplugs because I might be screaming. I don't know. We'll see. Possible. But yeah, I have a scheduled thing Tuesday. No, I lied. Wednesday, Thursday, 7 till whenever I stop. So,
okay. What are some of the socials?
At BubbaPudding, literally everything.
Gotcha.
There's literally nothing else that's different. So, and if you find something that isn't at BubbaPudding, it's a scam, or you found something personal, and get off it. Anyways,
what about the Kickstarter page? BubbaPudding Kickstarter. How's that going?
BubbaPudding Kickstarter. Well, yeah. I guess we'll find out. Got to make that Area 51 game.
Ryan, what's coming up with your channel?
Oh man, so I am basically like doing exclusively Borderlands at this point. I'm having a blast going through. We finally finished our first character. We got him all the way up to level 80. For those who don't know, Borderlands 2, that's actually max level in the game. took like 80 hours to get to, which was nutty. But we finally did it. We're starting up our next character. I'm going to be playing mostly Borderlands all the way until Borderlands 3 releases, which just so happens to release on my Streamiversary, which is pretty cool. So I'm probably going to be planning on doing a 24-hour of that when that happens. So that sounds like a fun time. But yeah, that's basically what I'm up to. You can find me at twitch.tv/renditions with two Z's because I'm dumb. Can't spell my name. I'm big stupids. And you can find me at renditions basically everywhere.
Cool.
But yeah.
Coming up on my channel, Friday night, I have my next follower special, the long-awaited Danie Core. I'll be playing some Rocksmith and doing some bass covers. I'm real mediocre, so come in and laugh at me fumble with my fingers. Maybe Rocksmith will teach me how to be a good bass player again. Other than that, not a whole hell of a lot. Probably a creative stream coming up here soon because I have some branding stuff and someone reached out to me. Like I think I mentioned this last week. I'm just trying to get more details from her on what she wants.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really about it in terms of my channel. The podcast. We do have a limited edition mug. BubbaPudding is modeling it right now. It is sexy. It will be gone July 31st. So if you haven't gotten your mug yet, go on ahead and get your own mug. We are doing giveaways all month. Ren, what are we giving away this month?
So I actually ended up getting two different things. I don't know which one I'm gonna like give away. So last time I gave away Borderlands 2, I ended up getting the Handsome collection as well, just because it was $5 and I couldn't stop myself. And I also got Hollow Knight. So we're most likely gonna be giving away Hollow Knight next week, but we'll see. We'll see.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you are interested in winning that game, what you're going to need to do is when the podcast gets updated on Spotify and on all of our other podcast platforms, go to our Twitter, find the pinned tweet that says the podcast has been uploaded with @BubbaPudding. Retweet this to win. Only retweet that. It will be the pinned tweet. Only retweet the pinned tweet. And you'll be automatically entered to win that game, and your name will be thrown in the hat for a package of $70 value, which will be awarded to people at the end, which will be awarded to one winner at the end of July. So once again, every week we're giving away a game. Every week that you retweet that, you'll be entered to win another package. You're not limited to one prize. Kind of the whole point of the $70 package. Again, retweet only the pinned tweets, not the retweets that say go retweet the pinned tweet. Retweet the actual pinned tweet.
Retweet everything.
Retweet everything.
Other than that, guys, is there anything else?
Nope, that basically covers it for me.
Oh, I forgot. If you guys are watching us live, you can find us on YouTube. You can also find us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Stitcher, Swoot, basically everywhere podcasts are found. If you are on a special player and you cannot find us, let us know. We would love to be in the player of your choice. Also, guys, help support the show by telling your friends. Just like say, hey, I found this awesome podcast. Here's a link.
Yeah.
It really helps us out and it makes us feel warm and fuzzy. Other than that, we all good, guys?
Yep, we're Gouda.
Yeah, we good.
Awesome. Well, guys, until next week, goodbye.
Bye, everybody.
Get out of my house.
Yeah?
All right, I gotta find a...
Your face.
I
Yeah, that's right. I said
it. I need to find something to raid.
Come on, you got this. I believe in you.
Well, I was gonna find...